Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Interlinked.
What's up, crypto gamers? I'm pleased to share I've got some updates on Shrapnel. First off, in regard to the litigation, they are open to a reasonable settlement, but they are determined to protect their rights in court and share that they have strong lawyers who will be there to protect them. That statement was shared on their Twitter. Now, on the game side, they have a event planned for the end of November where people are going to be able to dive back into the sacrifice zone for 7 days straight. This event will be aimed at celebrating the community in the last year that they had, and they're going to pack that week full of prizes. There's going to be digital rewards. There's even going to be physical rewards. I hear rumors about controllers and graphic cards, and there's going to be some updates to gameplay too. So they're going to have Revolver, they're going to have a new AR, and I even hear there's going to be a big announcement that week. So certainly stay tuned for more details. When we have a date to share, we will certainly share it. Huge shout out to our sponsor, Playa3ull Games. They are inspired by gamers and funded by their community. They have a epic game on the Epic Games Store, a third-person shooter called Nexus. Hop on in there and check that out. They're also currently selling nodes, so if you're interested, check that out at their website, playable.games. That is a 3 instead of a B on Playable. Now strap in for the rest of this episode of Interlinked.
Today we have the main man, the homie, the AI super whiz, Mr. Neuro himself. What's up, dude?
Nice to be here, mate.
Awesome. And alongside of me, as always, is the greatest co-host of all time, possibly beyond just the human species, but all podcasts amongst all species, both human and otherwise, Mr. Cryptoetheus, Sir Nicholas himself. How are you, sir?
Dude, I'm doing great. You outdo yourself every time with those intros. I'm climbing the intergalactic podcasting ranks. Absolutely stoked to be here. Dive into some AI avatars and all that Neuro's got cooking over there. So super stoked for today's episode.
Hell yeah. So, Neuro, dude, you guys have been crushing it. I think you kind of came on
Thanks.
to my radar a couple months ago at this point, and you guys were at like 15, 20 mil market cap. Now, the
Yeah.
last time I checked, you guys just popped in the hundreds of millions of market cap. So well done. GG on that one.
Thanks.
Um, but prices and market cap aside, I want to get to know a little bit more about the person behind the token, and then, a little bit of your history. Love to learn just kind of like what your journey has been up until this point. How did this all come to be?
All right. Well, I mean, first of all, there's not just one person behind the token, right? There's a whole respectably sizable team, that made all of this possible. But yeah, I mean, if you want to know more about me, my journey started like 15 years ago, I I have some experience, quite a lot of experience in software development businesses. Um, I started off in the gaming industry, um, quite successfully on a very niche product that I don't really want to go into too much, but it was definitely very interesting. And at that point, I was like 20, 22 years old. Um, quite young, but we built it out nicely. Like we built out a huge team, made a lot of revenue actually, which we didn't appreciate back then. And then, I grew with that experience. We built up different kinds of products. We went into crypto and like when I was like 20 in 2017, I think that's when I really started, getting really into crypto. Um, and like more in an investment way. And then 2018, out of that previous experience, I started building development teams for other crypto projects. So I had at one point I managed like 50 developers in my own office in Europe, and we provided lots of development services to different kind of crypto projects. and at the same time also actually multi-billion dollar companies that we service. So it was kind of like a weird mix, but definitely interesting experience, and that's how we got started in crypto. And we build out different kinds of products, like crazy stuff, completely new blockchain technology, but also um, stuff like crypto casinos for clients, like lots of different things in different areas. Um, and then over time, I started getting really bored of the other side, the corporate side, and just focused completely on crypto. And yeah, like 2021 was huge bull run. I was a very early investor in Cake, for example. Um, that was good times. Um, that was kind of my experience on the investment side. Like I really focused on very focused bets. So Cake was like I bought it like 50 cents or something. And like B&B when it was like 30, $40. So
Wow.
that was that was pretty cool. But at the same time, we still kept building on the business side. Like we had lots of different clients. Actually, funny story. I one time I worked with John McAfee. I just realized I never talked about this before a few days ago. I worked with John McAfee on the project called Skycoin. Um, I don't know, probably no one really remembers that, but that was interesting times. I don't know if you know John McAfee, I guess you do.
Not
But he
personally, but certainly his reputation.
he was a character, but he was super smart. Like he was insanely smart. He had huge insights. Um, but anyway, so I have a long history in that sense. But yeah, I started off with gaming, and then basically like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we started not just looking into crypto, but also into AI. So I kind of transitioned the team. I always have a core team that I worked with, like some of the people that are on Neural right now. I hired personally 12 years ago, 14 years ago. So pretty long history with our team. And yeah, so we started working on the AI side. We basically was just experimenting. We focused on um, like understanding LLMs, training LLMs, fine-tuning LLMs. And then we did like different things in different media, like voice, all kinds of different things, like voice, video generation, uh, really everything you can think of, just to understand the whole thing. And then basically what we figured about 1 year ago was, well, we have a lot of experience in gaming, we have a lot of experience in crypto, and quite, sizable experience in AI at that point. Um, why not, combine these things? And we came up with this idea for Neural for creating. At the start, our idea was really just create an AI suite of products that help game developers get to market quicker. Um, that was the idea, quicker and less expensive, because obviously building games is insanely expensive. You guys know very well, I guess, how that goes. And especially in the Web3 space, there's obviously in 2021, 2022, well, maybe not so much in 2022 anymore, but 2021, most games had huge funding, right? But then the bear market came and shit hit the fan. So, yeah, at that point, I think. Yeah, we realized, okay, this is actually very viable. Not just in Web3 and Web2 as well, but definitely in Web3, there's a huge need for it. So we started just working on this. So we started creating our own 3D model. Um, we worked with a lot of open source stuff as well, fine tuning and stuff like that. And basically, yeah, 3D was our core. So creating 3D assets that you can put in games, preferably game ready, without making additional adjustments, without needing a 3D artist to do these changes. Um, that was where we started. And if you look at my tweets, like this is, you know, I think like 1 or 2 months ago, I put out a tweet like, this is how it started, and this is how where we are now, and the difference is insane. Over 8, 9 months was insane difference. Um, yeah, I'm really proud. Like now we're at the stage of very very high rate of game ready models that are being produced. Um, but as I said, like that part is really just the core of us, right? We have a lot of other things, sorry, to offer, um, that we're expanding to now. So we just announced, for example, um, what we've been building on for a while already, but uh, it was the thing is now the trend is coming for AI agents, right? Or is already there. But we've been talking about AI agents in Twitter Spaces and stuff for since summer, So obviously there's a lot of demand there right now. What you see right now is hugely like the big majority of it on Twitter and stuff is very simple LLM calls. There's not really much agentic about it. But definitely I appreciate the trend, and I think that us coming in there and launching what we just announced, Sentios, or Sentios, which stands for Sentient Operating System, um, is going to be having huge impact on the scene as well. Because what we're doing is we're combining a lot of the previous experiences that we had to build this system of, rapid deployment of AI agents. We have different kinds of AI agents in this system, um, starting with the very basics, like the social agents that you see now. But I believe that we can provide these things in a quality that is probably hardly seen. There's a few agents out there that are quite respectable. I won't deny that, but I think that what we have to offer will definitely showcase a different kind of spectrum. Um, and yeah, so we're starting with social agents, but we also have our core is still the 3D side. So one thing that I also showcased recently is actually based on a test we did with a Neo Tokyo NFT, which is basically you go from a PFP to like a full 3D character that is completely animated, like rigged and animated, with one click. And this is something we've been working on for quite a while already, and it's basically ready. So what we will be able to do is we'll be able to agentify NFTs, right? So that is also part of the CentOS that features, and it's going to be one of the features coming out sooner rather than later. So I'm very excited for that.
So
Sorry.
then maybe we can kind of take a step back. Like, I think one of the brilliant parts of the mixture of AI and gaming is that kind of like what you guys are tackling, like that core need of helping to make game development faster and easier and cheaper.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what people, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of what people may not fully grasp is like how long it takes to build
Yeah.
really specific custom assets for a particular game. Assets meaning if you want to have a bunch of characters, or if you want to have like different cosmetics for the characters, or you want to like everything needs to be on brand, it needs to be on point, things need to make sense, all that stuff needs to come together in a way that like feels cohesive, right? Like I come from a marketing background. So the way I think about it is like when a customer goes from they see an ad to a landing page to a sales page to the checkout cart to they get it. If anything feels off or like the branding's wrong or it's just they lose the scent, so to speak, it fucks up the whole experience. And like I think one of the things that to my understanding of what you guys are building is that it enables somebody to like very quickly get up to like game ready asset quality which
Yeah.
saves thousands of hours, however many hours. So it like is enables you to really speed up the process. Maybe you can first of all correct me where I'm wrong in any of that, but then also maybe just linger on that a bit of why that's so important.
Yeah, I mean, the difference in speed and cost is insane, right? You can see it, of course, with LLMs, but with 3D AI, it has a huge impact because you go from, needing a 3D artist for one model to work on like, hours, depending on the complexity, it could go to like a day of work or 2 days of work even for one model. And then you also need texturing, PBR, stuff like that. Um, and like go from that and basically do that within 30 seconds with our AI. So that that jump is insane, Even if you only think about the prototyping phase or, pre-production of a game, even just to showcase what you think you want to do, but like what you want to do with your game to investors, to, people out there to hype them up. I mean, even prototyping phase in games takes like months usually, if it's like a proper game. And here, like you can speed up the process so much, it's crazy. But I mean that's one thing, and then you kind of you can put together your showcasing level within a day instead of weeks or months. Um, and that's to me that's mind blowing. Coming also from a game background, I completely understand how much of a difference that makes. And I mean the a big sorry, a big issue is also, you know, from an AI perspective, one of the big issues is tackling this cohesiveness, right? As you said, basically painting a cohesive picture, like having similar styles across the board, not going like off-brand. And for example, if you go on the marketplace and you buy, assets that are, on a marketplace as a package, which is available right now, right? Um, First of all, a lot of people will recognize that and they will kind of see it as a cheapening out. And second of all, like you have to put in work to make it actually cohesive to fit into your world. Like it's not most of the time it's not a drag and drop thing. Um, and what we're doing right now is basically creating a pipeline where you can fine tune our existing model based on your resources. So Um, if you have, concept art, if you have any kind of existing models, images of what you want to have in terms of style, you could feed that in. We fine tune it automatically for you, and then you use that and actually produce assets and models that are, really fit to your game, right? And that's pretty unique. I don't think anyone has done that so far, even in Web 2. So getting that out is gonna be very nice.
And why do you need crypto to do that? Like why hasn't Web 2 figured that out? Or maybe they have and you just really like crypto, so it made sense. But do you need I guess the question is, do you need crypto for this?
Look, for the base functionality, what I just described, you don't need crypto. But we're crypto natives and we figured out ways to basically make it make sense with our token as well, right? A big part of Neural is that we bootstrapped everything, right? We started from no funding. So we went from 50,000 market cap to wherever we are right now, just based on bootstrapping. And um, for us, the crypto part was also a funding mechanism, right? But it was not the funding mechanism in terms of raising upfront, but raising over time through the tax that we have on transactions. And I think the community really appreciates that part. And at the same time, it builds such a huge community for us and so much support that it's also a social vehicle. Crypto is very, as you know, like building crypto communities is very valuable. And having all that support from a lot of people that are literally with us from day one is insane. And now, moving towards, new stages of neural, there will be a lot more use cases to the token, more utility, especially tied to the agent systems. So this is going to be very interesting. And that's what you definitely need crypto for. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to dive into some of the states of the other tools, particularly on the the AI as it relates to the game development piece. Could you walk us through some of the tools and like where they stand currently today, and then we can sort of speculate into how they can change things in the future?
Sorry, what do you mean by other tools? Do you mean competitors or?
No, no, the tools that you guys have currently available.
Ah,
So
okay.
like the material generator,
Yeah,
any of the avatar generators or any of
yeah,
the like, if you could dive into that and like how things like currently stand.
yeah. So we're pushing right now where we stand is basically we have a 3D asset generation, which allows you to generate the 3D models based on text or image. Then we also have the material generator and the texture generator. So materials and textures are different. Like materials are basically for floors and stuff like that, repetition, and textures is really for retexturing models, for example. Um, and then what we also have but didn't release yet is this whole character pipeline that I talked about, which obviously works for NFTs, but also works for, any kind of other image input. So basically, what we call the character creator. So that's something that's coming very soon, which goes from basically nothing, text input or image, to a fully animated character. So you can use that for NPCs or you can use it for player characters, and that's pretty huge, especially because we will also add support for um, how do you say, like video animation. So basically, I can record myself, do some animation, and it will be applied to the character, uh, basically in real time. So that's pretty cool. That's also something that can be used, by not just by games, but also by, VTubers, stuff like that. There's lots of different streamer areas where this could apply to as well. Um, and so the character creator is one part. Then we also have what we call we have this overarching goal of what we call agentic world building, which means you go from very little input in terms of world description and stuff like that to a fully fledged level that's built through different kinds of agent swarms, which are connected, and have like overarching team leaders in a sense, which build out all the parts that you need in the level, right? You start off with a height map that's being created, that generates the basic landscape. Then you start off, then you go into, painting the landscape based on heights, based on biomes, stuff like that. And that's automatically then populated with generative um, fills of, vegetation and stuff. And then afterwards, there's an AI that goes and segments this into different kinds of areas, and basically goes and says, hey, so this area could be populated with this kind of objects, this kind of NPCs and stuff like that. And then what we'll do initially, of course, is have, steps where the user can give feedback. So we suggest, okay, we want to populate this area with, pirates. And they could have these weapons and this kind of equipment. And then the user can actually say, okay, yes, that's what I want, or let's change it a little bit. And then we generate all the assets and we actually like place them within this level, in a sense, in a way that hopefully makes sense. um, and then that's basically what we call agentic world building. And then we also have something that generates localized ambient sounds, stuff like that. Um, we will also have, an NPC name generator and these kind of things as well, like automatically tagging the objects and stuff. But yeah, on a like higher level, that's basically what we see as the future of, game building. Um, and we're going to tackle that in steps. Um, but the first step of this agentic flow is definitely going to come out pretty soon. And yeah, I'm really excited about that.
And to quantify just like how big of a change this is going to bring to the game development space, like how much do you think this can cut down on the overall timeline for game development? So let's say, you've got like a AAA title which could take 5 years at a minimum to really deliver, especially if it's a shooter or a big like MMORPG. How much do you think that timeline is going to be cut down by AI tools?
I mean, look, I think in the final stages, it's going to be cut down to hours, maybe less. But like in the
Damn.
first, obviously in the yes, yes, but I'm really talking. I'm talking about 5 years out probably, but in the I think what's definitely going to be possible pretty soon is to cut it down by at least 50%, 60, 70% maybe, depending on the exact game type and requirements. But even for AAA games, I think you can definitely cut it by half the time for sure. So
That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah, yeah, it's
And
Yeah.
incredible.
so in this future where we're gonna be able to do that in like I'm literally picturing an hour and a half just grinding it out. Boom, you have a game. Okay, that's what came into my mind.
Yeah.
All right. Are you thinking like you need to be a Giga Chad dev and then you could do that with the tools? Or are you thinking just an absolute non-technical but very creative person, for example, could be like, speaking to their phone and then it just appears on the screen or like,
Yeah.
what's that actually going to look like?
No, I think this is going to be abstracted away from, industry professionals. So this is definitely going to be available for the regular user. Uh, as I said, like that part is definitely at least a few years out. But I mean, we already see signs of that happening, and it's no stopping. There's no stopping it. We with the rise of agents, all of this is possible. Agent swarms can literally, like, you can literally rebuild a whole game development team, the roles that are in this team, build out agents for it, um, have reflection on them, self-learning, self-healing, especially if they make mistakes, this kind of stuff. And then it goes really fast.
What if you built agents that built other agents that did the
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah. That's that's basically in the early stages right now. We see that happening already, but it's not as reliable yet as you would want it to be in a AAA game. But it's definitely happening, and we are also experimenting with this kind of stuff. It's a hit and miss right now, but it's happening.
So, in a world like that, there's going to be a lot of transformation, right? Obviously, the
Yeah.
people who currently are building that stuff, watch out. May they may have some threats in their future to their professions. But then in a world where there's so many different titles and so many different games, does that erode the need? Like, how does that affect the landscape? Like, does it go and does it conquer the biggest game companies because they no longer have a moat of billions of dollars that they can throw out a new title because people can spin up this other stuff? Does power move to those who can build community better or to the most creative? What, what happens to the whole game landscape at that point?
Yeah, that's something I've been thinking about a lot. Um, for me, I feel like eventually this will end up in like one overarching world, virtual world that we interact with, and within that world, you will basically, spawn games or levels or whatever you want. I'm talking basically Ready Player One, that kind of stuff. I see, I I see that happening. That's for me, that's the logical conclusion of where we're headed. So basically, um, this what we started, what the whole crypto community started as the metaverse, um, will eventually happen, just not how everyone thought it would happen.
Now, a word from our sponsors.
What's up, crypto gamers? Shout out to our sponsor, Myria. Myria is revolutionizing Ethereum based gaming with its powerful L2 scaling solution. Think zero gas fees, instant transactions, free NFT minting, and more. Myria offers a suite of tools that are tailor built for game development, including game specific SDKs, a specced out marketplace, Web3 spiked leaderboards, new AI super tools, and more. All this fueled by a fleet of player run nodes that are a breeze to operate and pump out daily rewards for supporting the ecosystem. Plus, check out Meta Rush, the Battle Royale obstacle runner by Myria Studios, dropping very, very soon.
Now back to your regularly scheduled program.
But in that world, if it's one big space and there are then subspaces within that, obviously the big space is the internet, the greater internet as a whole. Or maybe it's not obvious. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot and I just revealed but but who owns that? Where does that happen? How do things get stitched together? If somebody's building over here using these tools and somebody else is building over there using those tools, times 1,000 for all the other, or times 7 billion, right? How does everything get stitched together? Or did the agents just figure that shit out for us and it's like the nothing burger and it'll just happen in a couple of years where something will click and then everything will just automatically be interoperable?
Yeah, exactly. I believe the agents are a big piece of that puzzle because in order to get to this, kind of singularity of a virtual world, um, there would have to be a lot of, fighting competition. Definitely, there are a lot of people that would fight for that spot. Um, so maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's going to be multiple of these. Maybe there's going to be one that's powered by Activision. Maybe there's one that's powered by Tencent or whatever. Could be lots of different options, but I see at least, even if there are multiple, I see them interconnectable. And yeah, definitely agents are going to be the key for this because they're going to make all of this um, fluent without actually needing to predefine everything.
And then, sorry, Nick, I know I'm asking like a series of questions, just perpetually cutting you off and hogging the
All
mic
good,
space. But
brother.
okay, just last question on this line for me is at that point then, what is the moat for the companies that build the agents? Now, like I'm basically asking you about your moat. Like, at which point these agents become so omnipotent and, hopefully the ability to utilize power and electricity, cost of electricity goes down, and then, price of compute hopefully goes down as those things approach zero asymptotically, which probably will happen over time. Maybe that's a whole other different question, but like as the cost of doing this stuff drops, what's the moat around this sort of technology? Or is it, yeah, actually, no, or what's the moat around this sort of technology? What happens to the companies building the infra?
That's a very good question. Um, Look, I think it's going to be specialization, there's still going to be companies that can specialize in different areas, like companies that specialize maybe on the interconnectability of worlds, doing that transfer or, fluent change. There's going to be companies that focus on the more on the in-game or in-world stuff, right? So like sourcing different services that you would expect, well, that you basically have to do right now as a user yourself, right? All these kind of things like switching between games, like logging in, launching, talking through different chat services, stuff like that. Like eventually all of this will be interconnected in some way, and then you have agents that do these things. And if you have, there will be lots of different specializations, and then there will be agents that focus on, maybe creating new agents. Then there will be agents that focus on creating things within the world. Um, it's just, I think it's just a niche thing at that point, and you have to just dominate your niche.
Yeah, and on the resource side, I'd be curious to hear, especially as you guys scale, you're going to have a huge demand for resources as people are using all
Yeah.
of these different generators. How are you guys currently sourcing those resources, and how do you guys plan to do it in the future as far as computation, as you guys scale?
Yeah, so we do have from quite early stages, we're very well, we got along very well with the Akash team. You know, they're really, really good guys, a very nice team, and they provide us right now with pretty much, I would say, 90% of our compute. And we have quite a lot of demand already, just on the generation side and a few other things. Um, like when scaling, so far we didn't have any issues with them. Um, Eventually, like if we scale really hard, we definitely need to, add additional providers and additional resources, maybe even, implement direct APIs for different things, instead of, hosting everything ourselves. But I feel like there's not going to be a problem in that sense. There's already enough potential resources out there that we can utilize. And we do have an eye for optimization. So it, agentic workflows, they come usually, if you do it properly, it's usually a mix of different models, right? You don't just use one huge model for everything. That just costs you a lot. You have models that are smaller that makes, certain decisions that they can definitely make, but the that basically cost like, a fraction of the bigger models. And then you have bigger models that you run that, you know, cost more, but you only use them for, important decision making, reflection, stuff like that. So yeah, that's how we set it up as well. So we can scale this pretty well, and there's even models that we can use that, would run on potentially locally or the agent box. So we don't need to use extra compute for some of the processes. Yeah.
And shifting gears from the resource side to the UGC side, I'd be curious if you guys are looking at sort of white label solutions for your guys' tools so that people building in, Cornucopias or, in Star Atlas or any of the future big like titles. Because it really seems to me that these tools are going to make a huge impact on traditional game building, but an even bigger impact on UGC, where you have this whole like locked up resource of creativity where people just don't have the skills to take that creativity from their brain and put it into the game environment. And it seems, but they can type into a box. And it seems like this will really break that dam of UGC to a whole new level that we haven't seen before.
Absolutely. So UGC is a huge part of what we're doing in terms of demand. We're actively talking to quite a few UGC titles. Um, Actually, I have a Twitter space soon in a few days with one of them, Seed World. They definitely need they definitely have this need. And like we already built a public API that you can, put into any game, right? So it's already accessible. It's not like, it requires some development work, but it's accessible. but we're working on an SDK as well that you can integrate easier into your game um, during runtime, right? So you can actually generate the models, you can texture things within the game while it's running, and that's for us is a natural next step. So that's also something we're working on actually. And I mean, imagine it's just gives a lot more creativity to the users, to the players as well, right? Uh, in UGC games, you always have limitations because you have a lot of constraints simply because most of the time they just have to provide you with what you can build. But in this case, depending on the game developer, they can set their restraints, of course, but not as, they can open it much more. In theory, they could open it completely, but I guess that would also kind of break the game, unless it's like a super geeky, uh, just fun game. But definitely, this is going to open a lot of options for players, and yeah, it's very exciting.
I'm kind of picturing like a a world where the players can help the core team build out the game moving
Yeah,
forward, right? Like you would need to have some sort of like lore guard basically that makes sure it's within the realms of what the developers kind of see as the vision. But I'm almost picturing like, the developers are like, all right, here's a skeleton of what we see. Here's like that North Star that we want to go towards. Build with us. And then the players can be creating stuff alongside of the devs. The devs more act as like polishing and integrating more so than just the raw creativity. That seems like that has a much longer shelf life than the devs spit something out and it takes years to do and the players don't really have any involvement in it. You know what I mean? Like it almost
yeah,
seems like this is like an enhanced form of game
yeah.
building that could be co-built with the community.
Well, yeah, completely. And um, I mean, there have been, if you think about early games, a lot of the times they actually came with like a game builder or some kind of mod system, right? They were way more open than most of the games today. And we saw a lot of good stuff coming out of that. If I remember correctly, like out of Warcraft, a Dota was created, right? It was a mod on Warcraft. So
It was
that's
actually Warcraft 3 Frozen Throne
Warcraft 3. Yes,
in their
exactly.
custom
Yeah.
builds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was like something like this, if you imagine that people just come in, use your game, and make it basically like a completely different thing, but within your game system, um, that's mind blowing. I mean, that's awesome, and that should be encouraged as much as possible. And if you then have, within the game already some kind of predefined constraints in terms of, revenue sharing or stuff like that through crypto, through the blockchain, then that enables a lot of creativity and a lot of, expansion and constant change um, and updates, which is, yeah, which is a dream for game developers because you put out the base version and then you can kind of like if you did a good job on the base version and you let people actually, build some cool stuff with it, you can kind of start to relax and enjoy the royalties. Um, that's how I see it.
Yeah, so it almost seems to me with like sort of these tools facilitating unlimited amounts of creativity and dev in different ways, that really the big wars that people are going to be fighting for is going to be resources and IP and tools, because those will
Yeah.
be the only things that really differentiate, one game from another. Is if anyone can build whatever they want, it's really what they can build it with and how they can build it and how much power they have to build with, which are going to be the big differentiators.
Well, okay, I want to push back slightly because at some point, well, maybe in the beginning, I think perhaps over time, everybody's going to have all the latest stuff. Everybody's going to have the best tech, right? At least played out in my ideologically sound world, we all, there's definitely going to be asymmetries there. But at which point everybody has the same tools, wouldn't it be those who have the most creative people? Like the community would be the creativity
Mm.
within the actual people that are helping to use the tools. That might be the mode. So I think IP, kind of like what you were saying, but I think it's the people helping to create the IP with the tools might be the edge. I'm not sure. I'm kind of throwing this idea against the wall, hoping you guys
I
tell me where I'm
think,
wrong here.
well, I think you're quite right there. I think that actually a big part of the mode is going to be also being able to just build a great community, you know. I think that's something not everyone can do, you know. And it takes a lot of effort. So, and I mean, if you can do that, I think you attract the community. Um, they will just build a lot of stuff for you, you know, and do a lot of work for you. So yeah, I think that's a big differentiator.
And I wonder if IP purchases will be aimed through that light of if you can buy the Dragon Ball Z IP for your little slice of the metaverse, you essentially buy the Dragon Ball Z community. So I think that'll be an interesting sort of like
Yeah.
integration where, all these projects like I mean, Neural is IP, Neural AI's community is IP. If someone went and purchased Neural, sometimes that can be handled poorly, but I think it'll be an interesting way that people, either bootlet or sort of like get shortcuts to sort of purchasing communities. And then you'll have the ones who build them from scratch.
I mean, we kind of saw that with NFTs already, right? There were some NFT purchases that were definitely made for community purposes only. Um, so I don't see why we wouldn't see that here as well.
That's so fascinating. It just seems like the future is extremely bullish for virtual worlds and
Yeah.
virtual experiences. I mean, how fun. Like when we're running this back 5 years from now, and we should run it back sooner than that, of course. But in one of the multiples of the times we'll run it back in 5 years, we could literally be talking, and as we're talking, it could be building a virtual world around what we're saying. Like we could be like, all
Yeah.
right, let's hop on our dragons and go for a space fly. Whatever ridiculous shit that we can think of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. I actually talked about this like almost 5 years ago with like a group of very wealthy old men. I remember that was very interesting day, but I tried to explain to them that this is gonna be the future. Like, and I told them like there's gonna be people are gonna spend a lot more time in virtual worlds. They're gonna have a lot more freedom within these worlds. So that means they will spend even more time in it. Um, and at the same time, you know, um, that's just how it's gonna go. And blockchain is gonna be an integral part for this, for managing a lot of these things, um, permissionlessly. And yeah, that they
But
laughed at
why?
me. They were like, no, no, it's not gonna happen. It's-
But wait, why is blockchain going to be so critical to this? I think that is the part that we as an industry have to answer. Why is blockchain critical to that future?
Oh, I thought it's obvious. I feel I think that um, because it's permissionless, um, simply because of that, it's programmable and permissionless. So, and with agents on top of that, agents being able to manage these things, um, potentially even agents that are being able to, dynamically manage, contracts and stuff like that. That would be insanely powerful. It enables transactions and facilitates like transactions and um, agreements and stuff like that in within such short amount of time and within such little effort that it just can't be beat with any kind of centralized system.
Yeah, I think the other important part of that is since the internet and like these tools that we're discussing are limitless, but I always think back to like the GTA playing GTA on God mode. It's boring after a shockingly small amount of time. When you first get in there and you're
Yeah,
playing and you don't have all the guns and you don't have all the cars, you're like, damn, I wish I just had everything and then it would be so fun. And then you punch in that
yeah,
cheat and you have everything. And I'm like, all right, well, now I'm bored in like 20 minutes. So, in a way, like blockchain brings structure and like sort of like rules to what would be a completely chaotic space. And so I think human beings like tend to like ping pong between chaos and order, but usually for something to be sustainable and enjoyable over the long term, it has to have some sort of mix between chaos and order.
absolutely. Yes.
So, Neuro, maybe you can kind of scope out a bit and talk more about like where are we in the integration cycle between gaming and AI? I know we've kind of talked about it a bit, but like I think people are very excited right now from a price perspective, and they're like, "Holy cow, numbers about to go up in a way we've never seen before, like tectonic shifts of wealth, right?" And
Yeah.
I'm all here for that. 100K Bitcoin, let's fucking go, you know. But like on the product curve or the product life cycle curve and the integration of two industries, are we like in the are we even in the first inning of what this stuff is going to turn into? I mean, we've talked about like, okay, 5 years is going to do a bunch of crazy shit, but like, is that inning three? Is that inning nine? Like, what's the ultra, long term and the timeline and this and how integrated everything is? Like, maybe just kind of help us level set there.
Okay. I think because gaming is such a broad topic, you kind of need to define what kind of gaming we're talking about. If we're talking about, AAA gaming, we're definitely just starting, it's literally just the beginning. If we're talking about indie development, um, I feel like we're basically, you know, 40% there, we're getting there. It's usable. Um, it's definitely usable. You can play around with it. You can save a lot of cost with it. But also AI and gaming, there's lots of different layers to it. Like I already explained that there's so many different things you can do with AI in gaming, whether it's like during game production or afterwards, post-launch. Um, so there's lots of different areas to explore, and I'm also pretty fascinated by a few different things that are basically after launch, which is, you know, AI as gameplay teachers or advisors, which basically help you become a better gamer. And on top of that, what I also really find very interesting is AI um, as player liquidity. Um, Basically meaning you you re you basically have a certain part of your players actually be AI players. Just especially I think that's very interesting for Web3 gaming, always struggling with player numbers for sure. And if you have a certain amount of players that are basically players, you can't really distinguish them in the game between a player and an AI. Then that definitely will help your game because you have people that they can, other players can interact with. You have actually economy going because the agents can interact with the blockchain, they can interact with whatever you have in the game. So if those two things are going to be quite beneficial for Web3 gaming as well. So on that front, I feel like um, definitely in a specialized way, so specializing on certain games or specializing on certain genres. there's going to be a lot coming out the next few months, also from our side, to basically help Web3 games attract players. Because in the end, numbers attract numbers. If you have more players, whether they are AI players or not, doesn't really matter if you can't distinguish them. Um, they will attract more people. So that's kind of our idea for Web3 gaming.
I love the tutorial like game guide piece because that's one where so many games have struggled to have their onboarding be smooth because their game's so complex and the
Yeah,
tutorial is this one size fits all. And with all the different ways that people learn and all the things that they get stuck on, like, I mean, you put an AI agent that can help you from learning the game all the way up until like honing an experienced player. I think that's going to make such a difference to onboarding, game stickiness, improvement, you know,
it's going to be a lot
esports.
more fun, right? For the casual players, it's going to be a lot more fun to get into it, um, because there's just someone, guiding them, and it's just instead of like having to figure out everything yourself and not finding things on the UI or not finding things in the world that you need to interact with, they can just help you, or not understanding some of the base game mechanics, um, instead of writing like reading a document or some kind of explanation for the game, you can just go in the game and learn it right there with a helping hand. And then later on, what you said for esports, I kind of cut you off there. The the that's gonna be pretty huge as well. Like if you obviously you mature from the casual player to the pro player or like more advanced and kind of dedicated player. And if you can help these dedicated players like really see a learning curve, like really see improvements, constantly going with, dedicated AI agents that help them improve. I think that's very great. That's going to be great for retention.
100%. Well, gentlemen, I am hearing the bells ringing outside, alerting me to it's being the top of the hour. So, Neuro, I do want to thank you for coming on, talking everything AI, gaming, crypto, blockchain, and flying on space dragons for our for our future pod. But yeah, no, really appreciate you coming in and being a part of the pod. And yeah, thank you for building everything that you are. You're helping to push the whole space forward. So um cheers to you, sir.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And yeah, anyone that's interested can always come to our Twitter spaces. We have them weekly, on Thursdays. So just join in if you want to know more about Neural. And I'm super excited to come back to the pod and you know ride those space dragons.
Love it. I want to just ask one last question before we pop off here, but what is one piece of alpha that you have for the audience? Doesn't need to be market alpha, could be life alpha, entrepreneur alpha, could be like trading alpha since you caught stuff early previously, but things that will help the audience better their lives in some way.
Okay. Well, I have this saying, uh, nothing worth achieving comes easy, and I live by that, and I think you can see that based on Neural as well. Um, so, I mean, look, just do your best. Try to find your niche, your whatever you're good at. Just focus on that, and pump it out.
Rock on. Neuro, appreciate you, sir. Greatest co-host of all time, Mr. Cryptoetheus, Sir Nicholas. Appreciate you, sir. And everybody who's watching and listening. We will see you on the next episode. Take care, guys.